NATO countries are meeting in Washington this week for a summit with President Biden. Now, this comes as Hawaii Senators Brian Schatz and Mazie Hirono are among 12 senators calling for Hawaii to be included in the treaty. Now, currently, folks, if Hawaii were under attack, it would not be seen as an attack on all NATO countries and therefore would not warrant collective self-defense. Joining us now with more from Washington is Senator Schatz. Aloha and good morning, Senator. Thanks so much for stopping by with us this morning.
Aloha, Sam. Thanks for having me.
So despite Hawaii's geographical and military importance, we are not included in Articles 5 or 6. Why is this?
Well, it's a simple fact. I mean, you described NATO exactly right, which is that an attack on one is an attack on all. And it's the reason that there has not been an attack on a Western European country or the United States homeland, with the exception of, obviously, 9/11, since World War II. And NATO Article 5 was invoked, in fact, when the United States was attacked on 9/11. And so this is a really important aspect of our security. The problem is that the treaty was ratified in 1949 before Hawaii was a state. And so we are at a technical level not included in that Article 5, which basically guarantees that if Hawaii is attacked, that all these NATO countries would come to our defense. Now, we've gotten verbal assurances from a lot of our Western European allies that they would, in fact, come to the United States' defense if any part of the United States were attacked. But that's not good enough for us. And I was happy to lead a bipartisan group of senators to clarify that the 50th state, in fact, is implicated in this treaty. We're not sure, frankly, the way forward. We've written a letter to the Secretary of State to try to get some assurances from our NATO allies. Reopening the treaty might be pretty difficult at the technical level. So we're trying to just make sure that maybe we can achieve some side agreements that are essentially like an addendum to the treaty to clarify, so that if anybody gets any ideas about attacking the United States and the 50th state, that they know that all of our NATO allies will come to our defense.
No, this comes as this summit does happen in Washington, and part of the topics will be Chinese aggression within the Pacific. How concerned are you about that?
I'm concerned about Chinese aggression in the Indo-Pacific. Look, I think we have to make sure to project power, but that's not just military might. It is also economic power. It is cultural power. It is sometimes small things. It's our ability to, not so small things, but it's our ability to help people in the Asia-Pacific region to respond and prepare for extreme weather events and disasters and contending with the challenges presented by climate change. And so it's not just a matter of how many sort of carrier groups and military hardware and service members we can deploy, although that's going to be an aspect of the projection of power. It's also about not just the example of our power, but the power of our example. And so I'm trying to make sure that we work on that aspect of it, on diplomacy and on building those relationships throughout the Asia-Pacific region, because I think the one thing China cannot pull off, even if they wanted to, is to develop friendships based on shared values and shared objectives. When you go into business as a country with the Chinese government, there are always strings attached, and it is always a transactional situation. With the United States, we stand with our friends and our allies in a way that is a little different and less transactional and less contingent on circumstances. And that's the case we've got to make. But in order to make that case, we've got to be out there actually helping people and being what, Secretary Albright used to call the indispensable nation.
Senator, you brought up shared values. There are 6 Republicans that are with you on this letter. It is a bipartisan request from the State Department, but also there are Republicans within Congress that have been skeptical of NATO, if not outright hostile. How do you feel like this would hurt negotiations?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple, there are not just a couple, there are, dozens and dozens of people who are pretty nuts about foreign policy right now and want the United States to basically crawl into a fetal position and stop leading internationally. That is more true on the House side than it is in the Senate side. I now serve on the Foreign Relations Committee, and although there are a few people with some pretty wacky views, and these are not new views, right? America First and all of that was, is 100 years old now. But there are still some good bipartisan thinkers on the Republican side. And, the old saying, which is less true than it's been in a long time, which is that politics stops at the water's edge. That's the way I'm trying to approach foreign policy.
Now, at the same time, there are questions about President Biden's age as well as his ability to communicate with this meeting this week. How important do you feel like shoring that up is with our allies to continue negotiations, especially with something like adding Hawaii?
Well, I think NATO is President Biden's wheelhouse. When Russia invaded Ukraine, he was immediately able to get on the phone and talk to people whom he already knew as the former chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. So I have no doubt that the Secretary of State's team, the Department of Defense team, the White House team has had a successful NATO summit in sort of solidifying and growing support for a rules-based international order. And look, there are lots of people who have reservations about militarism, and I understand that. But we have to understand that NATO has been one of the causes of the longest periods of global stability and prosperity that we've ever seen.
All right, so important to keep us safe back here at home. Senator Schatz, thank you so much for joining us this morning from Washington.
Thanks very much.